Okay, let's walk you through this painting. I don't have a script, so this is raw, uncut. So I started with a background, and I do that because it's low risk, it's an easy entry point, and it provides context for the values for the rest of the portrait. Then I go to the lightest area. Before I even start painting, I'm aware of my brightest light and my darkest area, so my two extremes. So anytime I make a mark, I am keeping in mind those two extremes so that I keep the values in check. Now, I often start with the eye that's closest to the light, and from there I jump around a bit. So when I mix up a value for a particular spot on the eye, and I can no longer use that value on the eye, and I need to go back to my palette, maybe I need to reload the brush, or I need a new value. If I have some excess paint on the brush, I'll actually go to somewhere else in the portrait where I see that value to lay that down. And that serves two purposes. One, it keeps me engaged with the painting process. I feel like I'm making more progress. And additionally, it continues to provide context for all of the values. I should mention too that I'm not fully rendering that eye as I jump around. I want the overall painting to get some coverage. I want to start to really familiarize myself with the whole painting and understand the form. That being said, there definitely comes a time where I'm ready to really zone in on the eye and fully render out from that point. So I will stay focused until I have fully rendered the first eye. And continuing to jump around from that point for the reasons, like I said earlier, if I have excess paint on the brush and for whatever reason the painting is leading me to add some information to another area in the portrait, I will do that. But generally speaking, I am working on that eye. I'm zoned in completely in that spot. And at that point, once I've finished the first eye, I go on to the next eye and mostly radiate out from there. So I do the eyes, paint the nose, move to the mouth, paint the cheek area, the hair, and then the neck. Painting, as I was really squinting down to subordinate all of the details to the overall value structure, and as I was looking for patterns in the light, the flow of the light, it highlighted some drawing issues. So when I'm really squinting down and I'm seeing those patterns in the light, I'm actually, glancing back and forth, and I can see proportionally what that pattern looks like and relate it to what's happening on my painting. And I saw specifically the pattern of light on the right-hand side of the nose, down by the nostril. I had my drawing off. And so that awareness of the pattern of the light when I squint down, that can actually confirm or, inform me of proportional eschewments. And I made adjustments accordingly. I ended up actually moving the nose, the right side of the nose, up. And the same thing with the mouth. I moved the right side up a little bit. A couple of other salient points I want to mention would be the opacity versus the transparency of the paint. I have the light areas painted much more opaquely than the dark areas. And that transition from light to dark, the halftone area, the area that is on the cusp of the shadows, would be where that transparency really begins. You can see the imprimatur actually shining through. You see some of that brown. Here's the finished painting. The very last thing that I applied would be the crisp highlights. I did have the highlights implied there earlier on, but I saved putting in the pure white in the eyes, and there's a little highlight of the wetness of her eye on the eyelid on the left. I saved that for the very end. But overall, I'm pleased with the painting, and I hope this was helpful. I thought of one other thing I wanted to mention. If you look back at the beginning of this time lapse, you'll notice I painted the sclera, the whites of the eyes, and you'll see how dark that I painted them. That is the color that I was seeing, and I knew that because of what I know. I know that the eyes are often in shadow because of the eyelashes and the thickness of the upper lid and the direction of the light source coming from above. Additionally, I saw those bright white highlights on the eyes, and I knew I would not achieve that brightness without pushing the sclera much darker. That was information, seeing those bright highlights in the reference image, that was information for me to guide me on what the value of the sclera were. So just be aware of that. Be careful not to paint the whites of the eyes too bright.